This guide covers all the actions the Paladin learns from level 51 to 90 in order. We go over how each action is meant to be used and recommend ways to use it when relevant. We also summarize the changes in the combat rotation at level 60, 70 and 80. In the final summary, we outline an optimized opener and explain how it leads into the general rotation, and also touch on the stat priorities of the Paladin. I will assume you already know the basics of Paladin from level 1 to 50, and if not, you can view my Paladin starter guide to get caught up. I will also assume you are acquainted with common abbreviations like GCD, oGCD and weaving. And if these abbreviations are unfamiliar to you, I have a short describing GCDs and oGCDs and a short describing weaving. Now then, at level 52, you learn the ability Bulwark, which causes you to block all attacks, which equates to around 20% damage reduction. I recommend using Bulwark after Rampart in your defensive order, or alternatively even saving it to stack with another defensive cooldown for particularly brutal damage amounts. At level 54, you learn the weapon skill Goring Blade, which is a standalone attack that hits like a freight train on a minute cooldown. Whenever you use Fight or Flight, you should immediately follow it up with Goring Blade. While Goring Blade's cooldown is reduced by skill speed, it is better to delay Goring Blade to use alongside Fight or Flight despite this. Take note that Goring Blade is better than your AoE combo on up to 5 targets. On 6 or more targets, you should skip Goring Blade unless you want to hit a specific enemy especially hard for some reason. At level 56, you learn the ability Divine Veil, which shields you and your party for 10% of your maximum HP. The cooldown isn't too long, so you can use it whenever you see raid-wide damage incoming. In a pinch, you can also use it to protect just yourself, or just an individual player that needs it. At level 58, you learn the spell Clemency. At this level, it works as your only MP spending action. You should only use Clemency when you or your party needs it, as in most cases, the healers are perfectly capable of keeping the party alive without your assistance. This is also important because, as Clemency does no damage on its own, it does not help you kill the enemies faster. To help you with this new MP management issue, Spirits Within and Riot Blade will now regenerate a substantial amount of MP on each use. In a desperate situation, you can use a much weaker combo sequence of Fast Blade, Riot Blade repeatedly to recover MP more quickly to spend on Clemency. This should only be done as a desperate measure. Take note that Clemency heals you for half the amount when you use it to heal someone else, so it is far more efficient to use it to heal other players than just yourself. A tip for dungeon pulling: while using Clemency is a loss on damage output for you, the spell itself may be more powerful than whatever options your healer may have available to heal you. And at the same time, healers tend to have very good AoE damage, so when doing large pulls, the idea of casting Clemency on yourself should not be as much of an issue, since you casting Clemency may save, say, the White Mage are cast of Cure 2. At this level, Clemency is very expensive and your AoE rotation does not recover any MP yet, so this strategy may be difficult to pull off this early. At level 60, Rage of Halone is permanently upgraded to Royal Authority. While it is a potency increase, this changes nothing about your rotation. The main changes to your rotation is that you now, more so than before, want to make sure to weave Fight or Flight on the first opportunity you have when it is ready, and then immediately use Goring Blade within it. Aside from that, your attack rotation is completely unchanged. You have, however, learned a handful of defensive tools to help you stay alive as well. At level 62, you learn the ability Intervention, which functions as an alternative to Sheltron that you can use on allies instead. Additionally, if you use it while Rampart or Sentinel is active, it becomes twice as powerful. If you are in a raid with more than one tank and you are not currently tanking, you can make good use of assisting your co-tank with this. In general, if you have a party member that needs a little extra help surviving an attack, you can also use this, instead of shielding yourself with Sheltron. At level 64, you learn the spell Holy Spirit, which with a cast time and an MP cost does a very respectable amount of damage. Holy Spirit does not cancel your combo and deals significantly more damage than Shield Lob, making it an excellent option for pulling, or if you cannot be in range of your target. However, casting it delays your auto attacks by 1 second, which both delays oath gauge generation and also is equivalent to losing approximately 30 potency worth of damage. For this reason, Holy Spirit on its own is not a DPS gain to use regularly. You can use Holy Spirit to align your 1-2-3 combos with your fight or flight windows. However, the damage difference between bothering to do so and not is close to 0. So the main benefit is that Holy Spirit can be cast at range. You also learn the trait Divine Magic Mastery, which halves the cost of clemency and also makes you immune to casting interruption from damage, although hopefully you hardly ever experience this in the first place. Additionally, this trait also upgrades Royal Authority to give you the Divine Might buff, which causes your next Holy Spirit to have no cast time and also do a bit more damage. Take note that Holy Spirit still costs MP with this buff, and if you use each of these buffs whenever they are available, you should, then this new sort of 1-2-3-4 combo sequence is MP neutral, so using Holy Spirit too excessively outside of it can become problematic. Try your best to enter fight or flight with Divine Might available. Take note that you don't have to follow up Royal Authority immediately with Holy Spirit, and you can delay it until just before Royal Authority in your combo sequence. Saving some MP to have for Clemency or Holy Spirits beyond this is not a bad idea, but remember that casting Holy Spirit without Divine Might isn't really a damage gain. The perfect fight or flight starts with Goring Blade, Divine Might Holy Spirit, Royal Authority, Divine Might Holy Spirit, and then a 1-2-3 combo finishing with another Divine Might Holy Spirit. As there is no significant damage gain from going out of your way to align your combo for fight or flight, you will need to adjust a bit on the fly. Finally, the presence of Divine Might makes your 1-2-3 combo, while including Holy Spirit, superior to your AoE combo on 2 targets. On 3 or more targets, you still use Total Eclipse and Prominence. At level 68, you learn the ability Requiescent, which does some damage, which is affected by fight or flight, and grants you 4 stacks of the Requiescent buff. Take note that Requiescent's cooldown lines up perfectly with fight or flight, so it should be used in every fight or flight window. The Requiescent buff causes Holy Spirit to do nearly double the damage and also have no cast time. While not particularly important right now, take note that Divine Might is spent first should you have both buffs, which you usually should. At this level, you want to make sure that you enter fight or flight with at least 4000 MP, if not 6000, to make sure you can afford everything. This also leads to a much more specific opener and burst sequence every minute, which I will detail in the level 70 summary, as you can perform this just the same at level 68 and 70. For AoE, spending the Requiescent stacks on Holy Spirit is better than using your AoE combo on up to 4 targets. With 5 or more targets, it is better to simply let the Requiescent stacks sit there. Optionally, you can switch to Holy Spirit casts as less targets are present. At level 70, you learn the ability Passage of Arms, which makes you block all attacks and also reduces the damage taken by allies behind you by 15%. You cannot do any other actions while using this, so you should only use it when anticipating large amounts of damage. You can also use it to soften damage in cases where no enemies are attackable anyway. Weaving Passage of Arms between GCDs for just a brief moment will apply the damage reduction effect for 5 seconds to all allies behind you, which can be helpful occasionally. Since level 60, you have added a couple of new magic additions to your attack arsenal, namely Holy Spirit, Divine Might and Requiescent, which leads to a somewhat altered opener and burst every minute. Pull with Holy Spirit, then use Fast Blade, weave both Fight or Flight and Requiescent. If your GCD is fast enough that you can fit 9 GCDs if you late weave Fight or Flight, then push Requiescent to the next GCD to do so. Then use Goring Blade, weaving Spirits Within and Circle of Scorn, and push Circle of Scorn if you pushed Requiescent to here. Then cast 4 Holy Spirits back to back, followed by Riot Blade, Royal Authority, and Divine Might Holy Spirit. When you perform your rotation between bursts, you should try to save Divine Might if there's not enough time for another Royal Authority combo before Fight or Flight is ready again. Simply weave Fight or Flight immediately when it is ready alongside Requiescent. The minute burst is identical to the opener, with the key difference being that after the 4 back-to-back Holy Spirits, you fill with the 3 best GCDs you have. The priority for this is 1. Boosted Holy Spirit, and 2. Royal Authority combo steps. If you prefer, you can also fill with casted Holy Spirits outside of Fight or Flight to make sure you enter every burst with Divine Might and Royal Authority prepared to get the optimal filler every time. However, the damage difference between doing so and not doing so is nearly 0. At level 72, you learn the spell Holy Circle, which is an AoE alternative to Holy Spirit. Take note that Holy Circle on its own is not worth using, as it is equal in strength to Total Eclipse. However, Divine Might also applies to Holy Circle, which doubles its potency, making it your strongest AoE attack. Similarly, Requiescat triples the potency of Holy Circle, which obviously doesn't change anything when it was already so strong. With Divine Might or Requiescat, Holy Circle should take priority on 3 or more targets. You also learn the trait Enhanced Prominence, which causes Prominence to recover MP like Riot Blade and also causes it to apply Divine Might like Royal Authority. Neither of these effects change your relationship with Prominence itself, but does enable you to both make use of and afford Holy Circle on AoE. At level 74, you learn the ability Intervene, which is a gap-closing attack that does some damage. You can have up to 2 uses of it at a time, and you gain 1 every 30 seconds. It should always be prioritized to use Intervene for movement, but if you know for certain you won't need them for that, you can plan to use both in a fight or flight window, since the damage of Intervene is boosted by it. Just keep in mind that saving both Intervenes for fight or flight equates to about 75 potency gained in total. If you end up spending a single second of time with the GCD ready but not attacking anything, you have wasted at least 75 potency, even if it's just Fast Blade that you are delaying. So, don't focus too heavily on using Intervene in fight or flight. It is a good idea to use at least one of the charges in fight or flight, such that it isn't sitting fully ready the entire time. Additionally, the duration of Sheltron is increased to 6 seconds, making it much better. At level 76, you learn the weapon skill Atonement, and Royal Authority is improved to grant 3 stacks of Sword Oath that last 30 seconds. You can spend Sword Oath stacks to use Atonement, which does the same damage as Royal Authority and grants some MP, in total adding up to about the same as Riot Blade combined. Keep in mind that Atonement does cancel your combo. What this means for your rotation is that, in the opener, add Riot Blade and Royal Authority before the initial fight or flight, and add 2 casts of Atonement at the end of the buff window. For the burst windows after that, your filler priority is changed to 1. Boosted Holy Spirit, 2. Atonement, and 3. Royal Authority combo steps. The reason for using Fast Blade here is that losing this damage during the buff comes at gaining damage from the better parts of the combo outside of the buff. Overall, it should lead to more DPS rather than less. For your rotation between bursts, simply perform Royal Authority combos, followed by Divine Might, Holy Spirit, and Atonements. If Fight or Flight is coming up before you can finish this full 7-step combo and finish another Royal Authority combo, save Divine Might for the buff window. At level 80, you learn the spell Confiteor, and Requiescat is improved to give you the Confiteor Ready buff. Confiteor also spends Requiescat stacks, and its damage, which includes an AoE component, scales far, far better than both Holy Spirit and Holy Circle, so you should always make sure to use Confiteor with a Requiescat stack. However, should you mess up and this is not the case, Confiteor can still be used without Requiescat, albeit at a significant damage loss. Aside from the fact that you now use Confiteor in place of something else, this does not really change your rotation at all. Since level 70, we learned in particular Atonement, Confiteor, and Intervene. We adjust the opener and rotation slightly to make space for them. Let's start with the opener. Pull with Holy Spirit, then do Fast Blade, Riot Blade, Royal Authority, and then weave both Fight or Flight and Requiescat. Then use Goring Blade, weaving Spirits Within and Circle of Scorn. Then use Confiteor, weaving Intervene, followed by a Holy Spirit and another Intervene. Then do 3 more Holy Spirits and then 2 Atonements. For the downtime between bursts, you spend Sword Oath stacks and Divine Might, and then start a new Royal Authority combo when you run out. Make sure to use Spirits Within and Circle of Scorn when able. When Fight or Flight is close enough to be ready that you will not be able to spend everything in time, save Divine Might for Fight or Flight, but otherwise spend Sword Oath stacks. And you can even begin a Royal Authority combo. The burst is exactly the same as the opener, except the last 3 GCDs will be the 3 best filler GCDs you have among the following: 1. Boosted Holy Spirit, 2. Atonement, 3. Royal Authority combo steps. At level 82, Sheltron is permanently upgraded to Holy Sheltron, increasing its duration to 8 seconds. This ability also applies another, identical defensive buff for the first 4 seconds that makes it even stronger, rewarding you for using it just before large damage hits. In addition to that, it also applies a heal over time effect to you, healing for 1000 potency over 12 seconds. Intervention is also empowered to last 8 seconds, also applies this extra defensive buff, although a slightly weaker version, and it also applies the heal over time effect. Essentially, you can now use Holy Sheltron as a healing tool, and timing it well makes it easily your best defensive cooldown aside from Hallowed Ground. For large dungeon pools at these levels, it may feel overwhelming to only use one cooldown at a time, and in these situations, my recommendation is to use Holy Sheltron first, and then Sentinel, and then Holy Sheltron again if possible, and if needed, you can even combine it with one of your weaker cooldowns like Reprisal. Due to the healing component of Holy Sheltron and Intervention, you should make sure to use it if you cap an Oath gauge. At level 84, your 1-2-3 combo and Atonement gets a potency boost. This does not change your rotation. Additionally, all of your damaging spells now heal you for 400 potency as a bonus. This does not change how you use them, but the regular healing is helpful. You will most likely feel this healing is most significant during Requiescat, where you cast many spells in quick succession, and on AoE pulls, where around every third action is a spell. If you need even more healing, in a pinch, you can also choose to cast Holy Spirits or Holy Circles without Divine Might for the combination of damage and healing. Although, in the case of Holy Circles specifically, in these desperate situations, it may be better to simply cast Clemency once and save the GCD to maybe get around to another Divine Might quicker. At level 86, Spirits Within is permanently upgraded to Expiation, massively increasing its damage and adding an AoE component to it. This does not change how you use it. At level 88, Divine Veil is upgraded to additionally heal everyone affected for 400 potency. This can be helpful if you make sure to use Divine Veil when damage is incoming and the party is not at full HP, but otherwise the way you use it is unchanged. At level 90, Confiteor is extended with the 3 Blades combo. Blade of Faith, Blade of Truth, and Blade of Valor. This combo is automatically used by repeatedly pressing the Confiteor button. Each blade does increasingly more damage, and costs MP and spend Requiescat stacks. Similarly to Confiteor, they all scale far better than Holy Spirit and Holy Circle, and include AoE components. They also receive the effect of healing you for 400 potency on cast. Now, shockingly, this does not actually change your rotation very much, as they simply replace the 3 remaining Requiescat Holy Spirits in your opener and burst. And on AoE, they replace the remaining Requiescat Holy Circles. To round off, let's first talk about an opener, followed by general rotation, and then about the Paladin's stat priorities on gear. We will be covering a generally applicable opener and rotation that is somewhat intuitive and leaves room for flexibility as needed, while also properly lining up with raid cooldowns. Let's begin. 2 seconds before pull, start by casting Holy Spirit, then use Fast Blade. If you intend to use a tincture, a so-called burst potion, this is a great time to do so. Then use Riot Blade, Royal Authority, and then weave Fight or Flight and Requiescat. Then use Goring Blade, weaving Expiation and Circle of Scorn. Confiteor weaving Intervene, Blade of Faith weaving another Intervene, and then finish the Blade combo. Then use your 3 best fillers, namely Divine Might Holy Spirit and 2 Atonements. This then leads to the general rotation. Outside of bursts, you simply go down a priority list of 1. Spending Sword Oath stacks, 2. Spending Divine Might, and 3. Doing Royal Authority combos. Additionally, you should use Expiation and Circle of Scorn as they become available. When Fight or Flight is about to be ready before you can finish another Royal Authority combo, which will take at least 7.5 seconds plus 2.5 seconds per Sword Oath you already have, then you should save Divine Might and skip over that in the priority. Your burst combos will be signified by a GCD followed by Fight or Flight and Requiescat, and is performed exactly the same way as the opener, with the difference being in what 3 GCDs you use as filler. The priority list for your 3 fillers is as follows. 1. Divine Might Holy Spirit. 2. Atonement. 3. Royal Authority combo steps. Take note that there are other more strict rotation styles that prioritize optimizing the burst window more, but the overall damage output of each style is largely the same, so if you discover a different rotation that you like more, go for that. Briefly on AoE, you should use Total Eclipse, Prominence and Holy Circle on 3 or more targets over their single target equivalents. Goring Blade should still be used on up to 4 targets. Expiation, Circle of Scorn, and Intervene should always be used for extra damage. It may be beneficial to delay Fight or Flight and Requiescat until you have gained Divine Might to maximize the amount of Holy Circles you will be able to fit in the window. As you likely can fit only 8 GCDs in it anyway, this leaves the Confidior combo, 2 Divine Might Holy Circles and a Prominence combo. Finally, regarding stat priorities, take note that in nearly every single case, item level beats out optimal secondary stats. This means you should always prioritize gear with higher item level as long as it has strength on it. After that, Paladin's stat priority is critical hit, then direct hit and determination, and finally tenacity. While skill speed is not on the priority list, it is not necessarily bad to have some. However, there is no reason to go out of your way to get this, as so much of the Paladin rotation does not scale with skill speed that, given the option, you should choose any of the other stats over it. Take note that direct hit and determination are extremely close in value to each other. Fortunately, direct hit is only found on materia for tanks, so you simply melt direct hit into pieces that you don't need critical hit for. Tenacity is last because it is like a slightly worse determination in terms of damage output, and the damage reduction component is simply too small to make a significant difference, so it is preferred to prioritize maximizing your damage output instead. Now, that is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support me and my channel, you can like the video, leave a comment, subscribe and hit the bell to get notified when next I post a video. If you want to give even more support than that, you can also become a member of the channel. Fun fact, Bulwark is an action that used to exist before Shadowbringers, with the effect increases block rate by 60% with a 15-second duration and a 3-minute cooldown. Based on Paladin players' reaction to its return, it appears to have been considered extremely potent even back then. Bonus fun fact, if you still had a hotkey bound to Bulwark somewhere from back in Stormblood, you will find that the new Bulwark has overridden the old.